Uh, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jason Tiffy with Tiffy Customs. Welcome to the Crafted Edge. I'm here with my co-host, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hey, how y'all doing? This is J.W. Terrier with Boots 84s. Welcome.
Hey guys, how y'all doing? Don Watson with Don Watson Knives from state of Florida. Welcome.
Outstanding. We got Don the Train and the Greatness J.W. Terrier with
That's
us
right.
tonight, and we're never going to let that go.
No, greatness is always here.
Greatness. It's yeah. Okay. So tonight, we're not gonna take another fight like we did on the last episode about bashing everybody's favorite blade steel. Tonight we're just going to talk about something that is very practical and quite important actually in the custom knife world. And so what I'm actually going to let Don, why don't you go ahead and kind of introduce our topic for tonight, and let's begin our discussion.
Yeah, Jason, we're going to talk a little bit about, I guess, belt progression. I know as a new knife maker for myself, when I first started out, I kind of went to a few guys on YouTube. Jeremy from Simple Little Life, Brian Housemade, Eric Rivers is, you become a knife maker and first thing you want to know is, okay, what progression of belt do I want to use? Do I want to go 36? Do I want to start off with a 60? Do I start off with 120? And also, when do I do a 36? Is it pre-heat treat or post-heat treat? So that's something we're going to talk about tonight. Maybe it can give some of the new guys out there or some of the older hands a little bit of insight of what we do or how I do it. So maybe it helps somebody.
Sounds good. Well, let's. My thought is, what do y'all start off with when y'all start profiling a blade? You've already got it cut out on the bandsaw or whatever. What do y'all start out with profiling and working your design down to its near finished dimension?
Well, I use a 36 grit belt, which is the Blue Destroyer that Pop sells, to do all my profiling, get it down. Then I also go vertical. I'm on horizontal, and then I profile it that way and get all my scratch lines running in the same direction as horizontal.
Now, do you do that? You do that with the 36, or you move on to a different grit?
No, I do. I move on to a different grit to like maybe a 60 grit and then a 120. And I like to leave for a heat treat. I like to leave a 120 grit surface on my I guess the spine of the knife.
Yep.
Yeah, and then for a heat treat. Before heat treat, it depends on the thickness of the steel and when I'm grinding. I'll go ahead and start out with a 36 grit and go to probably a 60 grit. And then stop right there, and then heat treat. When I come out of heat treat, I go back to the 36 and then come out of the heat treat. Then I go to a 60 and then the 120 and then go to the gator belts and then the surface community belts.
Let me ask you that. Now you're talking about profiling your blades, right?
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did that. I'm going to the bevels on them after heat treat.
Okay.
Or before heat treat. So
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I just went ahead and continued out the way I do my bevels, on that.
Yeah.
But some choose, like I do kitchen knives and started doing all my knives. I started grinding post heat treat.
Mm-hmm.
And
I do that
I
too.
just found it's just a lot easier. I did a big camp knife and it was made out of 8670. And I went ahead and went up probably ½ inch on the bevels and then heat treated and come back in and went ahead and finished it out with the, 36, 60, 120 and gator belts and all my bevels. So.
All right. So I have a question. Sure. What grinders are y'all running?
I'm running that famous blue one called a Marabraid.
I'd be running that
2x72?
2x72 Marabraid, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So y'all running variable speed grinders. with
Yes.
ceramic belts, or are y'all running zirconiums? Y'all running aluminum oxide? Kind of give us some details as far as what y'all are doing there.
Well, I'm using. Go ahead, Joe. I'll let you go, and then we can
Well,
finish
I was
it.
just gonna go over, mine's pretty similar. My process is pretty similar to Don's. I use those blue destroy belts from Pops to profile on my contact wheel. So I'll get the blade profiled, and then I also like to take my spines all around the blade up to 120 before I move on to the bells.
Okay.
Yep.
And so
Now, are y'all? Go ahead. Sorry, Joe. Didn't mean to
yeah, and
interrupt.
then I was just gonna say it's very similar to Don somewhat, but a little different because very seldom do I ever touch the bevels with a 36 grit. I mean, if I'm using like 3/16 stock,
Yeah.
I'll go about maybe a quarter or a little more than a quarter up just to break those hard edges off. And it ends up being about a quarter or 3/8, up the width of the height of the blade. But I don't use a whole lot of 36. And then I'll move on to 60. And then sometimes depending on what I'm doing, I'll work my 60 to the point where I want, either where I want my bevels to kind of close to where I want them to be. Or sometimes I'll work a 60, then an 80 if I'm doing like a full flat grind, and then a 120, and then so on. But if a lot of times I'll just jump from 60 to 120, and then I'll refine those bevels with that 120 until I get all those 60 grit scratches out. And then at 120, I'm going into the rotary platen.
Oh, very fine. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. I'm jumping on the rotary platen, and I'm going into finer grits.
Okay.
So
Let me ask you this: are y'all running full tilt? Y'all running 50% on the variable? What are y'all doing?
If I got a 36 grit belt, I'm probably about 70%.
Yeah. With me too. About
just
75%.
Yeah, hogging material,
Mhm.
hogging profile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if I can drop down into my 60 grit and even my 80 grits, I'll probably run about 45% on the VFD.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Sometimes 50.
Yep.
Are
About
you ever running 100%?
Man, I got a 2 horsepower motor on my braid, and I'm not gonna lie, at 100%, that baby is moving.
It starts to get sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sketchy.
I've used them. I don't personally have an Ameribraid. I've had people try to talk me into it. I won't mention any names, but his initials are J.W. Terrio. So
Yeah.
I run a 1978 vintage. We were talking vintage. My
Vintage.
Carter earlier, vintage grinder, built by Mr. Dwayne Duchesne out of C Channel and Oilfield Pipe. And Joey's had the illustrious opportunity to run on my grinder, and I think he needed to sit down after we got done. And it's not a variable speed. It's just get it and go.
Yeah.
And so what y'all are talking about and what I'm talking about to talk about as far as belt progression is completely different, because I can't say, well, I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I don't run a 36 grit belt. I've tried that before. It gets ugly, and it never has ended well.
Oh.
So I actually start grinding heat treated. Yeah, I grind post heat treat, unless like I've got one out there I'm working on for our Belleville show coming up in April. That I'm doing some vine style file work all the way to the tip, and so I have to grind in that distal taper before heat treat, because I still have to finish up the file work. So that's the rare occasion that I'm grinding bevels preheat treat.
Yep.
So, but even then, I'm still doing it. I think I did that one with the 80 grit, and it's so mine, I'll start with a 60 grit on a heat treated blade, and I'll actually take
Mhm.
that almost to my finish, and then I'll come back in with the 120, and then depending on the finish that we're doing on that particular knife, if it's a user and we're
Mhm.
putting field grade or whatever you want to call it, if we're putting a belt finish on it or machine finish, then we'll go after we hit 220. I think we'll go into our Scotch-Brite belts and get that
Mhm.
nice brushed finish on there
Sure.
and all that stuff. If it's high end custom, then we'll start working up through 320, 400, 600, and then we go to the infamous hand sanding process
Ooh.
that
Okay.
So you,
every knife maker absolutely adores and loves hand sanding. So
I only
especially on
know.
like 63 Rockwell,
Oh.
stainless steel.
Yeah.
Everybody loves
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
And I've always said, if anybody ever asks, how do you feel about hand sanding? I said, well, find you a corner and punch yourself in the throat. It'll feel about the same. So that's just my thoughts on it. But
Yeah.
that's that's my progression. If I'm profiling, I'll start with a 60, and I may go to 220 before I go into heat treat. That's just
Yep.
I mean, there's really I can't say this is the best but that's what's worked for me. And it's less work on the back end. I would rather work on annealed steel to get
Yep.
all the
Exactly.
scratches out than I
Mhm.
would on 61 Rockwell, which is what we did some testing this last week on some blades, and that's where our skinners are sitting at 61 and a half. So
Yeah.
which is our aim, but I'd much rather work on annealed steel than I would
Exactly.
try to get scratches out of that junk. That's just rough. So
Well, Tippy, there's a lot of people out there and listening to this probably does not have a VFD motor. So they're probably in the
yeah,
same boat. I know Eric Rivers
yeah,
at TRE, he's never had VFD on his, and he's had to learn how to grind on his knives, especially in the bevels to keep
Yeah.
them overheating them or whatever. But
you grind by feel and faith.
yes,
It's
no doubt.
it gets sketchy sometimes, especially like y'all talking about kitchen knives, getting them down to 5,000ths or 10,000ths on the edge.
Yep.
That's when you got a belt running full tilt and you only got
Yeah.
5,000ths between you and
And
major catastrophe. It's
Yep.
your heart
and it,
rate goes up. You start to sweat a little bit.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
So the
you start.
first time, Don, I grinded on Tippy's grinder.
Yeah.
So I'm grinding on this thing, and the belt just is like moving the tracking's
Oh.
like all over the place. I'm like, dude, come here.
I bet
I'm
a
like,
while.
man.
What he's failing to tell you about is the 4-pound copper hammer that I have sitting on the side of it that says fine adjustment across the handle, and that's how you adjust the tracking on my grinder. So I wish that was a joke. It's really not, dog. So
Hey,
yeah,
man, you make it work, right? That's what's count.
we
That's it,
do
man.
we do make it work. We do
Yeah.
make it work. So.
It's funny how.
Now I got a question for you guys, and this is really kind of for me. What what do y'all take your flats to before you go into heat treat?
Well, a lot of times I'm doing post heat treat. So I've done a handful of knives. But when I first started making knives, I did, I would take my bellows up to 120 and then heat treat. And then I just decided to start heat treating everything at full thickness and then just grind afterwards. So
Yeah,
before heat treat, I would go to 120. That's why I would bring it. And then, like I said, I do most of my grinding post heat treat now. So I would say if just depends on the knife, like you said, if it's a user. But your question was, where do you take it before heat treat? And I used to take it to 120.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same, me too. I know when I first started making knives here almost 3 years ago, June would be 3 years, I always seen guys on YouTube they would, especially using carbon steel knives, they would take the knife all the way to 30, 40 thousandths on the edge,
Right.
take it all the way up, and then go hand sand all the way to 600, heat treat, come back and hand sand from 220 all the way up to 600 again. And I said, well, man, that edge on that knife, man, you're talking, this steel is 3/16 thick, and you're keeping 35 thousandths to 40,000 edge. It didn't make sense to me. And I knew because I was going to I tried doing that one time. I said, that edge is way too thick. So I decided, well, I'll grind. I learned through my mentor, Andy Roy. I asked him, what thickness on the edge should I leave it at? And he said, I don't know, 30, 40 thousandths on the edge, but you're going to go back in and regrind. So I used to do all.
You're talking about prior to heat treat, you're leaving it 40 thousandths.
Yeah, I leave it at 40 thousandths, and then out of heat treat, I would go up to 120 thousandths or 60 thousand. I'm sorry, I go to 60 thousandths. Go ahead.
At that point, how high up were you with your bellows? Where are you taking your bellows? Are you 30%, 40, 50, 60% up?
Probably 50%.
50%?
Yeah, 50%. Yeah. And then I'd come back in after heat treat, and I feel like it was no use to take it to 120.
Yeah.
I'd leave at least 60. I'd take that 36, go to a certain point, and then I'd go with that 60 up to a certain point, and then heat treat, come back in with a 60, then take it to 120, and then a gator belts, and then maroon color surface continuum belt. What do they call it? Conditioning belt.
Surface conditioning.
Yeah. Because when I first started, you had all these guys did it differently, and I'm thinking. And I figured out why a lot of guys did that. They would heat treat at 40 thousandths on the edge, do everything, and then come back. And then I'm talking about hand sand, everything, heat treat. Now they're back in there hand sanding stuff at 61, 62, hand sanding and all that. And I'm thinking, why would you leave the edge? Well, one guy that I followed, the reason why he did that is because if he took it back to the grinder, just like you, Tippy, he would take it back to the grinder. He would run the temper on the knife because he didn't have no VFD.
Yeah.
And so he was scared of messing it up.
Yeah, that's what 15 years of breaking stuff and messing up a good heat treat will do for you. You learn the finesse of pressure. I guess,
exactly.
To say and what you can and what really when we started rolling into the production side of things, what really helped me and I think I think Joey's ran it a little bit is having a misting system. So because we were running at full tilt, having that constant flow of cool water or we tried grinding fluid. It really didn't make that much of a difference to me, other than I started to break out on my hands because it was a mess. But that allowed me to, even though I was running at 100%, I wasn't running as much of a risk at losing the temper on that blade. So to me, and this is just a suggestion, if you're not running a VFD, you run it 100%, spend a little money, save up a little money, and get one of those misting systems, and it will
Yep.
absolutely change the game for you.
Yep.
So I think this is what it goes back to what we talked about, the last episode is finding the tools that fit your shop and really honing those skills and those techniques and processes that are going to help you produce the best quality blade that you can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Just, well, your belt progression. I mean, when I started looking at different guys on belt progression, what we talked about earlier, I mean, everybody has different. I mean, we're not even going to talk about different brands because that's just like steel, but a belt.
Oh, why not? Let's do that.
No, I mean, dear
If we're gonna
Lord,
pick a
man,
fight,
my
let's pick a
goodness.
fight.
Yeah, might as well, right?
It's not
Might
like
as well.
It's not like somebody bringing up Magna Cut 4 or 5 times in the last episode, and throwing people under the bus. I won't say who that was,
man.
Joey,
Oh,
but
Well, I mean, we also could pick a fight about ABL and
Mhm.
Nitro V.
Yeah.
looky here. Here we go.
Mm.
We're not
So
going. This is we're
Uh-oh.
talking belt progression tonight. We're not
I
talking
know.
about
So
blade
I'm
steel
not
again,
gonna.
Joe.
I'm just saying. We'll save that. We'll save
I
the
got 'em.
ABL and the Nitro V controversy
Yeah.
for another night.
Mm-hmm.
What controversy? There is no controversy. There's no controversy.
There's some
You need to
controversy.
stop.
There's some controversy. Oh yeah.
Oh man, you need to go pray
Yeah.
through. So let me ask you. I know y'all mentioned some of the brands that y'all use as far as the belts. You mentioned Gator belts, which
Mhm.
are 3M.
3M.
You said you
Yeah.
mentioned
Try that. Yeah.
Try
you,
that. 3M.
Trizax.
Yeah.
And then what did you say? The purple ones.
The incinerator.
The
No,
blue
not. I'm
incinerator.
sorry. Is that what it's
Blue.
called?
Blue incinerator. from
Destroyer.
Pops.
Blue Destroyer.
Destroyer. I'm sorry.
Which is made by
And those
BS.
BSM.
VSMs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I run
Yeah.
combat abrasives almost exclusively, and I've had great results with them. But I've run Nortons, I run 3Ms. To me, once you find what works for you, and I can't sit here and say, well, I've tried all of these, and this one's better than this one. I know what
Yeah.
I'm running works good in
Mhm.
my shop on
Yeah.
my equipment. That's what
Yeah.
works for me. And combat abrasives has been working great. We've been running them for the last 2 or 3 years and been having great results. Haven't had any issues. I've had a few come apart at full tilt. That's a rodeo. But that
Oh,
was
man.
mainly because I left them on the grinder after they'd been running for a while, and that mister got them wet, and that'll
Yep.
create
Come apart.
a perfect
Yep.
storm. It's amazing. Nothing like getting slapped in the face by an 80 grit belt at Mach
Man.
4. you know.
Man.
Well,
So you like the
Yeah.
combat abrasives? Is that what you're saying?
I do.
You like them?
I do.
Okay.
Um,
How about you, Joey?
Yeah.
You about like me, Joey, but go ahead.
Yeah,
What
I
belt
buy
you
a
like?
lot of my belts from Pops.
Okay, now.
Yep.
All right.
And so I use a lot of VSM.
Yep.
But I've tried a lot of different belts. I've tried belts from True Grit Abrasives. I think they're over there in Canada. When I first started knife making, I had a little 2x42, right? Everybody's got them. Everybody, when they start making knives,
Mhm.
I think Chris Jones called the little Dayton 2x42 the Dremel of grinders.
Yeah.
Because you can't control the speed.
Yeah.
Can't control the speed on that thing. And so when I first got that grinder, I had gotten combat abrasives. As a matter of fact, I still have some of those belts.
Okay.
2x42, yeah. But one thing I will note, I've yet to find any manufacturer where I can get a belt, a 120 grit belt, ceramic belt, to last more than one knife.
Yeah.
Or one side of a knife.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, on hardened steel. And
What are you doing, Joe?
that's what I asked Don. I was like, we were talking about it one day, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? And, he even mentioned that his 120 belts don't last that long.
No, they don't last.
You gotta hold your
And-
tongue to the left when you're grinding.
Or the right, whichever.
Yeah.
I
Figure out
mean,
which works best for you.
I don't know, man. I mean, I was like, man, should I start running the 120s on the rotary platen? Like, do I need a soft backing or something? Like,
Are
but
you running like stiff belts or J-Flex?
the Y backing,
Yeah.
Yep.
X.
the Y backing,
Yeah,
they're
wide
stiff.
back, yeah.
Huh.
They're the I'll tell you what they are. They're the VSM 885Ys, I think.
880. Pops 880.
Yeah,
Ceramic Plus. You got 880s.
Yeah, the ceramic pluses. Yeah, the 880s, and they're Y backing. And I don't know, man. I mean, I've tried Norton Blaze. I've tried Cubitron, 3M Cubitrons. I tried I tried the purple Boras. I've tried a couple of different brands, and I've yet to find one that's really good. Like really good. I mean, the only thing I haven't tried on a 2x72 is the combat abrasives. That's the only one I haven't tried.
My background for the last decade and a half has been in the machining industry. And I sold a lot of abrasives, went through a lot of training for abrasives. And this is one of the things that really helped me when it comes to running those abrasives in my shop. And we have to view a belt like we would a drill bit or an end mill or anything like that. Your speeds and feeds are going to change according to that specific tool. So running and when we're grinding, our feed is what we're feeding into the wheel or the platen or whatever, right?
Your pressure.
Our speed is going to be the rotation of the belt and surface footage and all that kind of stuff. It might be, this is just a thought, but it might be, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I run the 120s at about 35% on the VFD. So I don't know.
But here's the thing, you might need to go up.
Yeah.
Increase your feed, your speed. Increase your speed and then decrease your feed
pressure
into it. So, and what that does, I was watching a video last week, and this is something Dwayne taught me years ago about, opening up the grit on a ceramic belt on like your 60s and your 36s and all that stuff, run some hardened steel across it and breaking all that up. Well, on a 120, that's kind of difficult to do because that grit and that grain is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And so as you're running them, I think that's where, what we're talking about tonight is so imperative that we start learning how to. Now, I don't have much of a choice because I'm running everything full tilt. So the only thing that I can adjust is my feed into the belt, my pressure into the grinders it's running. Whereas, y'all have a little bit of an advantage or disadvantage depending on how you look at it. Now you've got to find that speed, that rotational speed, that surface footage on that belt, plus you're feeding into it. So it might be something, and it is something that we have to, as we're going along, determine, when I'm running a 120, how much, I'm not in there to take a lot of material off. Like you said earlier, Joey, you're trying to remove scratches now. You're not actually looking to hog out material. You're starting to refine your betals. And so that might be something that you look at. I don't know.
Yeah, I normally run it at about 35%. And like I said, it's I've seen it across many different brands. And I was like, man, even talking to Don one day, I was like, asking him, how do you run your 120s? I was like, and he's like, why? I was like, well, I can't seem to find a 120. I think I even told you, that Jason.
Run that sucker at 100% and video it.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing about those, thing
I want
about
to see what happens.
the thing about
Yeah.
those VSM ceramic belts is most of them only, those abrasives that are on the belt, they'll shatter at low pressure. That's what they're made to do. Because most people that make knives that grind freehand are low pressure grinders. They
Hmm.
The majority
Okay.
of us are.
Yep.
You're not
I wouldn't disagree with that.
yeah. So, and the way those belts are designed, those abrasives are designed to shatter at that low pressure. So, but I don't know. Maybe I need to try a couple of different things. I'll try going up on the BFD and see if that helps. I mean,
Like I said,
Yeah.
I'll come over and we'll video it.
yeah, I really do think.
I got you, buddy.
Yeah, we done did that a couple times. And it might be I'm just putting too much pressure,
Could be a lot.
and probably ruining the belt prematurely. But so
That or clogging it up.
Yeah.
Maybe.
yeah, well, I use those big erasers to clean it. I
Yeah,
clean pretty
exactly.
often as
That's a good
I'm-
tip right there. That racer, and
Yeah.
yeah.
that's a real good tip.
Absolutely. Those are a lifesaver.
Yeah, I learned that in the woodworking field and wood turning field to clean your paper for wood and stuff like, especially oily woods like your rosewood, stuff like that has a lot of oil and stuff like that. They'll help clean up and kind of help your belts last longer too. You'll do that.
Speaking of oily woods, if you for the listeners, if you're working with ironwood or African blackwood, a good belt
Cocobola is another one.
Cocobola.
Yep.
Another good one.
Cocobola. Yep.
Good belt to use is a zirconia belt.
Yep.
If you're using aluminum oxide on these oily woods, all it'll do is just gum it all up.
Yep, it will.
Just
Sure
gums
will.
the belt all up. Even on like some of these stubborn, I gave a friend of mine some, and I warned him about it. I gave a friend of mine some bone ivory paper micarta.
Yeah.
Now this stuff is notorious for ruining belts.
Yeah. I still haven't forgiven you for that, by the way.
Oh,
And they're still sitting on the bench too. I hadn't touched them yet.
Yeah. I told him, I said, dude, you gotta work this material, low and slow. But I was like, get some good
There ain't
zirconia
no
belts.
low and slow. There's no low and slow. It's like, okay, if I touch it, it's gonna burn. That's what it does.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
I hate that stuff.
I told you you hate it, but how beautiful is it when it's finished?
Oh, it's gorgeous when you don't burn it. It looks amazing when somebody else does it and does it well. And I'm not hand sanding all of them handles
man.
No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna. I love you, but it ain't happening.
Oh,
I'll change handle materials before I do that.
I'll hand sand them.
I tell you, talking about belts, zirconium belts is really good when you grind in micarta too. Micarta when you're trying to profile the knife, the handles to the spine, getting that down. That's the only thing I really found that really cuts micarta. You can either do that or you can wear a bandsaw blade out. And but yeah, I found that out through pops.
I've done that.
Have you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll wear a blade out pretty quick. Yeah, my belts cost me about my belts, but my blade or my big bandsaw, they run about $16, $17 a piece. So when you go to cut micarta or G10, it says G10. The bandsaw says no, I'm not cutting anything on that one.
So what I know we're talking about belt progression tonight, but
Yeah.
let me ask you this: what size bandsaw you running?
I run a 19-inch, 3 horsepower Grizzly bandsaw.
Okay.
Yep.
So I guess this can kind of go along, and this goes back to, like I said, I sold a lot of machine tools, including bandsaw blades.
Mm-hmm.
Different tooth pitch, different speeds, all of this factor, and this really kind of goes along with what we're talking about, and hopefully this helps somebody. The speeds and feeds of your machines, and sometimes that machine is you, because you're feeding it, or you're grinding, or you're pushing it through your bandsaw, whatever. That is important. And different, like we're talking about, zirconium works well in my carbon. Nothing works well in that ivory junk that Joey gave me.
Well, actually,
Aluminum oxide
zirconia,
does not. Yeah,
zirconia
whatever.
works
I
well
don't
on there.
believe it. I don't believe it. I think you're lying to me. So it's finding those belts that work good or work well in your setup on the materials that you're using. I use a lot of desert ironwood, and it's nasty, and really ceramics don't care for it.
No.
So,
Yeah,
you can burn it up. Yeah.
You shouldn't. No one should be touching wood with ceramic belts.
No.
You know?
No.
Look, you do what you can with what you have, and
Right.
because I forgot to order belts, I have used ceramics on desert ironwood, and I can attest that Joey's right. You don't do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you spend like 4 hours hand sanding, cotton picking, pocket knife handle, and then Anyway, learn from my mistakes, people. Don't do what I do. Listen to Joey and Don. They're better at this than I am. So
no,
No, man.
I mean, everybody finds, the belts that they like and use, I use zirconia belts on, like I said, mostly oily woods. My Carta G10 works wonderful on.
Yeah.
Except for, like Timmy says, some micarta it doesn't like at all. But if you go, like you said, you were talking about earlier, your speeds and your feeds, you slow the grinder down. You just got to experiment with it, different materials. Give it a try.
Yep.
But it's
Yeah.
Don, go ahead, brother.
Well, I noticed when I've been doing a lot of paper micarta. I did some of that rich light paper. I know a lot of guys out here probably use rich light from Maker Materials. I would just say this: I use zirconium belts from Pops. They're the cheapest belt you can get. I started out with a 36, and especially when you profile on the handle. What I mean by that is profiling the handle material to the spine after gluing up. Then when I shape the handle, I like to use the 1-inch scallop belts. And I try to use a fresh, I start out with a 120, then go to a 220, then 400, 600. And I've been trying to learn how to do most of the work because my mentor told me, because he does not hand sand no handle material. And he's
sounds
good.
like a good man right there.
Yeah, he does a great job on his handle materials. And he told me, he goes, well, once you learn how to let your 2x72 do the work for you, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And I've been really trying to learn to, use that. And I use a slat belt attachment, but when you're using, let's get back to the paper micarta, whether it's rich light or micarta paper, you want to use sharp belts, slow your speed down. If not, it will burn. They will burn. That's the tip of the day. I know I burned it. Yeah. So, but
as soon as you see a material burning, if it burns when you just touch it to the
Mm-hmm.
grinder, yeah, you need to step back and say, yeah, that's not cool. Let me slow the VFD down, turn it down 10-15%.
Yep.
And try it again. If it's still not cutting, don't just sit there and digging into the grinder
No, 'cause you'll
thinking it's
burn
going
it
to
deep.
start cutting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get burn marks. Also, too, on that, if it starts burning, you got two things. One, your belts need to be clean. You keep a rubber stick by it. I keep it clean.
Yep.
Or you need a new belt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the
Or
way
it's
it is.
that stuff that Joey gave you.
Oh, that bone, that
Yeah.
paper micarta, is that
Bone
Yeah,
ivory.
that's probably
Bone ivory.
what it is.
Yeah,
Give
that's
everybody the complete description, Joe, so we know not to get it.
Go ahead.
It's called, and I believe I got it from.
Don't say that.
Okay.
Don't say that.
But it's called bone ivory
Mhm.
paper micarta.
Yeah. It's
Bone
the
ivory.
devil.
I got some of that. I ain't tried it yet.
It is the devil.
And it will
My
gum
personal
up.
opinion. Oh, it's
It will
horrible.
gum up.
What does
Horrible.
it do
But-
again? Does it get, I mean,
It gets real gummy.
no. Okay.
Don, every bad thing that can happen with handle material
It does?
that you've ever experienced in any way, shape, form, or fashion,
Mm-hmm.
this stuff
Exactly.
does it. So,
Yep.
I'll tell
yeah,
you
all
what.
at once.
What I do with it, Don.
Yes, sir.
Like, I'll take a 36 grit zirconia belt.
Yep.
And I'll get a hard shaping on it with that 36 because it's so nasty. Like, even with as you go into finer grits, it just gets gnarly.
Does it get dirty
Yeah.
too with other, if you use it with other stuff, will it, I mean, if you use the belt previously to like a wood or another micarta, will it get embedded with the colors in that? Well,
I've never experienced
okay,
that. No.
good.
It actually is really pretty. I just have
It
to
is real
slow
pretty.
down
I need to try that.
and do it right. So
Yeah.
I think that's all of us. We need to at some point in time slow down and just do it right.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's the difference between you and Joey and probably myself is Joey is an artist. Joey is an artist and is not making. I mean, you and I, we do more production type work.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, he does.
I agree with that.
He takes his time when you're doing like you, Tippy. You do a lot of production work. You don't have time to, you really want to just get it done, do a good job. But something like that needs to go on a artist knife or a knife that's.
Yeah, I think we might have found.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was just gonna say, I think we might have found our next topic to talk about.
Handle material.
Production versus production knives versus making just one-offs and doing stuff like that.
Yeah,
Might
absolutely.
be a good topic because it's funny Don says that because I was just telling him today that I think I want to start doing that. I want to start batching knives.
Yep.
Make 5 or 6 and then do a drop. Drop on Instagram, throw them out there and just constantly keep doing 5, 6, just see how they go. And because I've never done that before. I've always, just made this knife, move on to the next one. What I'm going to do? Okay, this one.
Yep.
Made that knife, moved on it, instead of, I never really, batch made. I mean, I've made a particular model over and over and over again, but never like I think this collab knife would be probably one of the first time I really did, anything batched. So.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's all good.
Yeah. And I expect an apology, because we're putting some of that bone paper micarta on one of them, and that's Joey's fault. That's Joey's fault.
But it's going to be the
didn't
prettiest
tell
one.
him it probably will be. In the thing is, I didn't tell him I forgot to tell him we had to grind 10 nitro V hardened blades at once. So he's getting to grind the blade. and I'm getting to do the handles on the first batch, so it's gonna be fun. So, well, guys, I think we've kind of exhausted the belt progression topic tonight. Is there anything else that y'all would like to add before we sign off?
No, man, I think we pretty much covered it. I hope everybody out there knows.
Anyone listening out there, I think if give us a follow on Instagram.
Sure.
Individually, you can find Jason on Instagram at Tippy Customs.
Yep.
I know you can find Don over at Don Watson Knives. Myself, you can find me at Boot State Forge on Instagram.
Yep.
You guys have any other social media you want to tell the listeners?
We're on Facebook and what's the other one? Threads at Tippy Customs. We also have our website, tippycustoms.com. So like us on there. I will say, go ahead, Don. Tell us your social media platform.
Well, right now I'm on. I have Don Watson Knives on Facebook. I have a business page on that. And I have Don Watson Knives on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all check me out. Give a follow, man.
Yep. And we're the Crafted Edge podcast, or the Crafted Edge is on Instagram. Crafted Edge podcast is going to be on Spotify. We're also going to be on YouTube. So give us a like, give us a follow, share it. If we get some tips that are helping you out, and we're going to be bringing some guests on here in the next few episodes. So we're really excited about that, and we're looking forward to helping the industry grow. I mean, that's our goal with this, is to help each other and help other knife makers and help the industry grow, not just knife makers, but the guys that are making the handle material, the guys behind the machines that we use, and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a great deal. I think I know I'm really excited about what we're doing and looking forward to what we produce out of it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pumped. There's so many great vendors out there, so many good knife suppliers. So I look forward to, getting to talk to some of these guys and pick their brain.
Yeah, me too.
Along with many other makers, other makers. So.
Yeah, we got a lot of good makers out there. It's only been out there for a year or 2 years. I mean, that's one thing about the podcast, to be able to give them a chance to come on and give their journey on how they got started, whether it was Forge and Fire or your favorite YouTube guy, Eric Rivers, or, Simple Little Life, or whoever, but give them a chance to come on and tell their story. That's what I'm looking forward to hearing too.
Yeah, because I bet you a lot of those guys don't realize how many people they've influenced. Just by their
absolutely.
Their YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
They probably don't realize, hey, you get so many people, following you, and then you get so many others that, that may not comment or anything on their work because they're still learning. I know I was kind of reserved like that when I started. Just getting into knife making. I was more in just researching everything and not really commenting because I didn't have a whole lot of experience.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
But.
Well, gentlemen, I've enjoyed it. I appreciate y'all's insight, and y'all helped me a little bit tonight. Some things that I'm going to have to go out in my shop and try, like zirconium belts on white ivory, Beta micarta.
Yeah.
And
try it.
So we're going to give it a shot, and appreciate y'all taking the time to spend with us, and we look forward to seeing y'all next time.
All right, man. Y'all have a good day. Good night.
Yeah. Have a good night. Thank you.